The Endowment Effect: How Ownership Shapes Our Judgment of Value. A professor at the University of Rochester has a collection of vintage wines. When a wine merchant offered him $100 to buy them, he turned it down flat. They were worth way more than that to him. But when asked if he'd spend the same amount to buy the same kind of wine, he shook his head and said he'd only pay $35 max. For the exact same wine, just the difference between owning it and not owning it created a nearly threefold gap in how he valued it. This seemingly illogical judgment is one of the most fascinating puzzles in behavioral economics, and it's all thanks to the endowment effect. The endowment effect was formally proposed by psychologist Richard Thaler in 1980. It refers to the phenomenon where once a person owns something, they'll value it significantly more than they would if they didn't. The core of this effect lies in a common human trait: loss aversion. The pain of losing a certain amount is far greater than the pleasure of gaining the same amount. For example, if someone loses $100, they'd need to gain $200 to fully get over that frustration. In 1990, an experiment by Kahneman and others provided classic proof of this theory. They randomly split 44 college students into two groups. One got tokens, the other waited empty-handed. During the token trades, buyers and sellers had basically the same expected prices, and the trading volume hit 100% of the theoretical value. But when the experiment switched to physical stuff, like mugs and pens, the median price sellers asked for was more than twice what buyers were willing to pay. The actual number of mugs traded was only 20% of what was expected. What's even more interesting, this value bias didn't go away, even after repeated trades, proving the endowment effect isn't just a temporary mistake from not having enough experience. Thaler once designed a more real-life scenario. When people face a 0.001 chance of a life-threatening illness, they're willing to pay $200 to cure it. But if you ask them to take on that same disease risk for an experiment, they demand at least $1,000 in compensation. Health is something we're born with, a natural endowment, but once we start seeing it as property we might lose, how we value it skyrockets. This special soft spot for what we already have is deeply ingrained in how humans make decisions. The business world: smart uses of the endowment effect. 1. Trial strategies: creating virtual ownership. Beauty brands know this trick like the back of their hand. They're always handing out sample kits to potential customers. When someone uses the same face cream for a week straight and notices small improvements in their skin, they unconsciously start thinking of it as part of their everyday routine. When the trial ends, the sense of loss from giving it up far outweighs any sticker shock. Even if the full-size product is pretty pricey, more people end up buying it. The point of this strategy? Use short-term access to create virtual ownership, so customers get emotionally attached before they even pull out their wallets. The auto industry's 30-day no-questions-asked return policy takes this to the next level. Data from one car company shows that even with a full refund promise, less than 3% of people actually return their cars. Think about it. When you drive that new car around town, buy floor mats for it, and get used to the control buttons, it stops being a car you're thinking about buying and becomes your car. Giving it up means losing that familiar drive, plus the prestige of showing up in a new ride. And that hidden loss makes most people keep it. 2. Customization: turning customers into co-creators. IKEA's success has a lot to do with its clever use of the endowment effect. When you build a bookshelf with your own hands, mark the inside of the drawers with a marker, or even adjust the shelf height to fit your living room, that piece of furniture stops being a generic product. Research from the Institute of Psychology at the Chinese Academy of Sciences found that people feel a stronger sense of ownership over things they help create, and they value those things by over 40% more than finished, ready-to-use versions. This "I helped make it" feeling cranks up the endowment effect, making people willing to pay extra for something they had a hand in building. Tesla uses test drives to build this emotional bond too. Potential buyers ride with a pro instructor to feel that pushback from acceleration, customize their in-car settings, and even join the brand's offline salons. These little interactions turn the car from a cold machine into an extension of themselves. Once that sense of ownership clicks in, customers are way more flexible with how much they're willing to pay. That's the endowment effect turning into real business value. 3. Membership programs: locking in identity endowment. A lot of e-commerce platforms' membership programs have a trick up their sleeves. Beyond discounts, they send out exclusive coupons and limited-time purchase slots on the regular. Once these perks hit your account, they become part of your identity as a member. When you're deciding whether to renew, you're not just thinking about future discounts. You're also dreading losing the perks you already have. Studies show that users with memberships for over 3 months are 67% more likely to renew than new users. Why? They already see that membership as part of who they are. Careers and investing. Choice is skewed by the endowment effect. In career decisions, the endowment effect often shows up as sticking with the status quo. In one of Thaler's experiments, a pair of twins started at the same company. They flipped a coin. One got a $10,000 raise, the other got an extra paid day off each month. Months later, the company let them swap, but both said no. Even though the two perks were basically equal in value, the one they already had felt extra special, thanks to emotions. That's why so many people hesitate to take a better-paying new job. They're attached to their current team, their familiar routine, and the comfort of what they know. Deep down, it's fear of losing that work groove they're used to, a hidden endowment. The investment world is even more of a hotbed for the endowment effect. Experienced stock investors often get stuck in this loop. The more I'm losing on a stock, the harder I hold on to it. When a stock's price drops below what they paid for it, they see it as temporarily lost money and are sure it'll bounce back. But if that same stock goes up a little, they rush to sell and lock in the small profit. This take small wins, hold big losses. Move happens because they see the stocks in their portfolio as theirs, so their fear of loss goes into overdrive. On the flip side, professional traders have a weaker endowment effect. Studies found that in gift exchange experiments, experienced business people swapped gifts 48% of the time, more than twice as often as newbies. That proves rational training can help fight this natural bias. Breaking free, escaping the endowment effect trap. The endowment effect isn't some unbeatable curse on our decisions. First, learn to use trade-off thinking to value things. If you're selling your house, ask yourself, if I didn't own this house right now, how much would I pay for it? When choosing a career, try to weigh losing my current job and getting this new opportunity equally. Shifting your perspective like this can cut down on the value distortion that comes with ownership. Second, watch out for sunk costs mixing with the endowment effect. Let's say you put a deposit down on custom furniture, then find a better deal later. You might still stick with the original plan because you don't want to waste the deposit. But here's the truth. That deposit is a sunk cost, money you'll never get back. Putting more money into the original furniture will only make your loss bigger. As Kahneman said, the heart of rational decision-making is ignoring what you already have and focusing only on future gains. From wine glasses to stock portfolios, from career moves to daily shopping, the endowment effect is like an invisible thread pulling our choices. It's not always an irrational mistake, but it's not an unbreakable chain either. Understanding this preference for what's mine is the key to seeing through business tricks, and it's a must if you want to get better at making rational decisions. After all, true value isn't about whether you own something. It's about the real good that thing brings into your life.